Peace and blessings. This is Dr. Bobby Price, your plant-based pharmacist and nutritionist, also author of Education Over Medication. So today I'm going to be talking about sea moss. I get a lot of questions about sea moss. Some of you have either taken my multi-mineral powder or my multi-mineral plus capsules. And each of those have sea moss in them, and each of them also have bladderwracks in them as well. And the capsules actually have an additional ingredient, burdock. But what I specifically want to concentrate on today is sea moss. I get a lot of questions about where should I get my sea moss from? What does it look like? What is the best kind? Those sorts of things going back and forth. And so what I want to do is to create a video, because right now sea moss is kind of going viral. Before it was this thing that only a few select people knew about, but now you have movie stars taking sea moss daily. And so let's get a little bit educated and empowered in the process so that you know that you're getting the right kind of sea moss and getting a high quality of sea moss. So first, let's talk about what is sea moss. Sea moss grows in the ocean. It only grows in the part of the ocean that moves. So it wouldn't grow in places like the Dead Sea where there's no movement. It will grow only in places where there's movement. All right. When it grows in these parts of the ocean, what it does is it interlocks on the coral rock. When it interlocks on the rock, what the sea moss does is it pulls minerals out of the rock. Okay. Now I've sort of educated people in the past about the importance of not getting your minerals from rocks, but there's a difference with this, and let me explain what that is. Plants are the greatest chemists in the world, and most of you who know me know I love chemistry. Plants are capable of taking sunlight and converting it to plant blood and vitamin D. Plants are capable of taking this inorganic mineral out of rock, like magnesium, potassium, calcium, iron, so forth and so on. They're capable of taking that inorganic form that our bodies don't recognize and our bodies can absorb and converting it into an organic form in which our bodies can recognize and absorb and use for nourishment and energy and so forth and so on. And so when I say the sea moss interlocks on the coral rock and then pulls the minerals out, there's a huge difference between going and getting the minerals directly from the rock and then getting it directly from a plant source like algae or sea moss or seaweed in this case, okay? So the sea moss then interlocks on that, and that's how it pulls out its minerals. Now, what's really important in terms of sourcing or getting your sea moss is getting it from the Atlantic Ocean. Many places, and I see this because people will send me their labels and I'll take a look at it, and it will be from sea moss from, Vietnam or Japan or China, and that's not the sea moss you want. A lot of you, if you remember, Dr. Sebi would always say iris sea moss, and the reason why it was iris sea moss is because it came from the Atlantic Ocean, where Ireland is, okay? Usually on the northern coast or the northeastern coast of the United States as well, okay? So you don't want to get your Irish sea moss from the Pacific or Asian countries, and the reason why is because a few years ago, Fukushima happened, where a nuclear plant exploded and all this radiation went out into the sea. And they were later able to discover that this radiation wasn't contained. It wasn't just in the area of, Japan where it occurred. It spread out through the Pacific Sea and Asia. So you don't want to get your sea moss from anywhere in Asia. You want to get it from the Atlantic Ocean. That's the first and foremost. The other thing to be really important in terms of sourcing and who you get it from is understand that there's a lot of what I call fake sea moss out there. And what I mean by that is this. What people are starting to do today is they will collect the sea, like a small piece of sea moss from the ocean. They will then take that sea moss into a factory and put that inside of this big brine. And it's this big metal container, and they will add water and they will add salt into the water. And then because sea moss is a living thing, like sea moss is a plant, it's a living thing. So it's used to what nature is supposed to expose it to. So inside of the brine, what they would do is just shift the brine back and forth to mimic the waves in the ocean, okay? And so it gives it that wave-like motion. Now, the big thing to understand about that is that sea moss will not give you the 92 minerals that, you know, our sea moss or the sea moss that was recommended for us to take. Like, it will not give us that same type of nourishment. And that sea moss looks very different. And what I did was I went to a market just to purchase some sea moss and show you what that looks like. So what I did here was, so I went to a market and purchased some sea moss. And so typically when I see people on, you know, on social media and so forth, they'll have their sea moss, and I can actually look at it and tell whether or not it's the natural form of sea moss or the, you know, the factory made sea moss. And so one of the very important things to understand about sea moss is, remember I said sea moss will attach to coral rock, and it uses the tentacles on coral rock. So when you look at this, what you see is you see the small little tentacles, okay? They're usually a little bit smaller than that. And then on top of that, one of the key things that will kind of let you know that the sea moss is probably factory made is that these tentacles will not hold on to salt. You see, and if you look in here, you'll see that these small little there's salt particles all over them. So this is definitely not something that I would buy. The other thing is that a lot of times what people will do is they will put the sea moss in a pot and heat it up in some water. And then all of a sudden, this sea moss goes from this size to triple this size. That is also another sort of key to let you know that that's probably a factory made sea moss, because sea moss really doesn't expand like that. It does convert into like more of a gelatin form, but it doesn't expand to 3 times its size. So I highly recommend that when you're buying your sea moss, if you're gonna get the actual whole sea moss like this, that you look at that, look at those 2 things. The fact that it's not holding on to the salt, that's the first thing. And the other thing is that these, the sea moss is actually very thin, especially the little tentacles that grab on and attach to the rock. The other thing that will also tip you off is if you decide to put it inside of hot water, it will not expand. And a lot of people tell me a lot of times, like, oh, I put a little bit in there and all of a sudden, like, I had a whole pot full in. That lets you know that it's not the actual sea moss. So just wanted to give a little bit of education on how do you go about navigating, you know, these new waters when it comes to so many people are making herbal supplements, so many people are producing, you know, new products that say that it's sea moss, and a lot of it actually isn't. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, if you have more tips on how you choose your sea moss, comment below. If you like the information that you received today, make sure that you like and subscribe below for more information to come. But again, I use our sea moss every day. Like I said, it has 92 of the 102 minerals that we need in our bodies, and that not only we need, but are critical to life itself. And so I do use them in my products, but I'm very careful about how I source my Irish sea moss and my sea moss, because if you get the wrong thing, you're not getting the nourishment. And not only are you not getting the nourishment, you're consuming something that could be possibly toxic to your body. So hope you enjoyed the video. Until the next time, peace and blessings.